Hello friends, welcome back. And if you're new here, I'm Meg and I post free hair tutorials every single Monday. And this week we will be taking this to this beautiful platinum blonde, adding 1 pack of extensions. But then next week will be part 2 and it will be this Neapolitan hair that I did at my Vivids class last month. So I am super excited for both episodes. Make sure you tune in next week to see the second half. But this week we are going to focus on getting rid of all of this dark hair and still saving the leftover blonde. So as you saw, first I spritzed a little bit of water on her hair to open the cuticle before going in with my K18 Molecular Repair Hair Mist. That is going to keep her hair nice and healthy before we start lightening. Gives me a little insurance policy to make sure everything stays healthy. And I am just going to be taking these really thin sections all throughout her hair and staying off of the blonde ends. So on this very first one, I'm not going to do any cuts. That way you can see how much time I spend saturating, moving the brush around, moving the hair around, making sure that everything is coated in the lightener, because you really need super saturation for this kind of job. And then I am just closing it up. You can also see that I stayed just a little bit off the root. We are doing a traditional platinum card, so you always want to stay just a little bit off of the root and go back for that later, because it's going to process the quickest due to the heat on the scalp. I am using Danger Jones Cream Lightener, and I started with a 10 volume developer. Now, the reason that I decided to go with cream is it's a little bit more gentle, and as you saw, her hair was not the healthiest on the ends, so I want to use as gentle of a lightener as possible and starting low on that developer. And then you also saw how I used the comb to smooth out my section and make sure that everything was saturated. That's another really great trick when you're taking these longer sections of blonde, because it is a lot. A board also helps, but this was such a wide panel as I do this in the back that I didn't use a board yet, but I will bring out my board as I move up her head and the section gets larger, and then I'll split it into 2 sections. But right now I'm doing the exact same thing, just covering all of that new growth and saturating it with my lightener. Now that we have a larger section, as I've moved up the head, I've got those 2 different sides and I'm painting on my board. This is just a standard Vellon hair board. You can order little ones on Amazon. I don't think the brand really matters. I think it's more of a personal preference. I know some people like a more pliable soft board and some people like a hard board. I prefer a hard one. I feel like it really helps get all of the saturation that I need. And then I am just closing it up, same as before. So you can see I'm taking my really tiny sections. And then when I get there, I like to comb it down so that I make sure I get anything that's dark. And I'm just leaving those blonde hairs down at the bottom. And then I can go through and kind of balayage those in open air later after the rest of the virgin hair has lifted. Because even though those ends are blonde, they are not as blonde as I want them to be. So I am going to be pretty much lightening everything, which is why the K18 is so important and is really going to make a huge difference for her hair. And just painting there, because yeah, you do not want to put the blonde in the foil. If I was to put the lightener onto her blonde ends right now, they would definitely melt off. So you want to get as close as you can without overlapping. And that is something that really just takes time and getting better at it and being able to see exactly where to lighten and where not to lighten. But all good things take time, and just keep your small sections. Combing it through like I just did there, like I said before, is super helpful to keep your section really clean. When it gets too thick and jumbled up, then you're just risking uneven lift and getting onto the previous blonde hair. just a mess. And when you're lightening and doing a platinum card like this, you cannot afford a mess. Everything has to be so intricate with those previously lightened ends and this extremely long base that we're working with. So this is definitely one of those projects that you have to be so careful with because you don't want to melt off all of their old blonde. And we are just making our way up the head. And then after I got through my first bowl, I made a second bowl of lightener with 15 volume. And then I just continually moved up my developer every time. So I went from a 10 to a 15. And then when I was working on her base, it was a 20. I also had another bowl when I get later on down, when we get to the point where I'm pulling her foils out, I did make another bowl that had 5 volume on it that I was using on her ends, and that helped lift those past that like orangey yellow to match the beautiful platinum that everything else was going to have. And I am just doing the exact same thing on her sides that I was doing in the back. I am taking really, really fine horizontal sections and staying just a little bit off the root, painting on my board and really saturating off the root, off the ends. That's the only thing you need to remember. And if I need to, I comb it through just like that. And then I am just going to repeat the exact same thing on the other side after I finish these. I know her head was getting heavy at this point, but if you want to know a fun fact, actually, the woman in the chair that I am lightening is actually my best friend of like, I don't even know, probably over 25 years. So when we were younger, we were in a rock band together and I was the singer. She was one of the guitarists and we toured all over the country playing music. It was the best time ever. That ended about 14 years ago. So without showing my age, but yeah, we've had a lot of fun together. And now she lives in San Diego. So I'm super excited that my best friend is here and I get to do her hair. And then on the video that I am going to show next week, that was from my double exposure Vivids class with my really good friend, Bet, who came all the way from Ohio to teach this class together. And we did rainbow prism model, we did regular block color rainbows, and we did Devo's Neapolitan hair. So make sure after this week you tune in next week to see the final color. And the video is actually from the class. So you'll get to see a little bit of the class footage in the background. And she was the final model of the day. So we had already been there for a good 3.5 hours, 4 hours when I started Devo. So it was kind of like a little surprise end to the class, we're going to do one more model. So this is me prepping my best friend for said class. And I'm so excited that she's finally on my page and in San Diego. And I get to have her here. And now I get to share her with you guys. But as you see, I am repeating that exact same thing on this side, coating that hair, staying off those blonde ends, using my comb to make sure that everything is very clean and even, not all bunched up. And it's perfect. And we are almost done with our lightening. Now, after this is when I will start doing her roots. So remember, we left the lightener off of her roots. So now we have to go back and hit those roots. While I do that, I also like to pull any foils that I see are done processing because we don't need them sitting in lightener all day if they don't need it. So here I am pulling all of that lightener off these bottom sections. Look at that beautiful blonde we got. There's those mid pieces there at the bottom where her old blonde was, and that's where I'm going to come through and lighten those and lighten the base. So it's kind of being covered by my arm, but you'll get a better view in just a second. But you can see how when I take these foils, I pull them down just a little bit to expose more of that base. That way I know that everything is saturated. So I take it down, pull it, then that whole base is exposed and I can paint it. I do the same thing with every single foil, and I make sure to paint the top of the piece above it also, because you want that underneath to be saturated. So you're going to be lifting both foils just a little, like I'm lifting the top there, and then we're pulling down and making sure we hit those roots. So this part is super important when it comes to saturation. And you really want to work quickly so that everything is getting that lightener on around the same time. And like I said before, I am still using the Danger Jones Cream Lightener with 20 volume developer and gently pulling on each foil. And I will just speed it up now so you can see like in real time how, well, not real time, but with no cuts, how I don't really stop to do anything else. I just stay right there and work on that base as fast as I can, because this is one part that you really want to try to do quickly. And the good thing is, like, you don't have to worry about being careful and staying off anything. You just have to saturate that hair and paint it on, and it is as easy as that. So it's pretty simple to move quickly through it, because it's not like you're picking out sections or avoiding anything. You are just painting anything that you see that is not blonde and cruising through that scalp. So after I go through and hit all of her base and make sure that everything has now been lightened from the base of her head to the ends where her blonde is, now I can go through and start pulling more foils and focus on those darker ends and a little bit in the mid that I still need to lighten. So this is where that 5 volume developer comes in that I was talking about earlier. So first I like to pull and see, and some were great and didn't really need much of anything, but then some I could really see that darker blonde from before. Oh, there's something so satisfying about pulling all the lightener off of an old section. Like, oh, I love it. But we can already see how beautiful this is going to look. And taking all of these that are done, making sure I tap the root again if I feel like I need it, and just squeegeeing out all that old lightener. This part is super important. Not only is it just pointless to have it processing on hair that's already done, I would rather get my fresh 5 volume and put that right there on the ends in a foil, because the new fresh lightener is going to work a lot better than the old stuff that's already been sitting there for an hour and a half. So with a project like this, because I had her ends, I literally had to go through the entire head and do this and make sure that I was covering any of that old blonde that had to be lifted at the very bottom. Because like I said, her brand new blonde that we're doing is going to be a perfect platinum. And then we have this like level 8 on the ends. So that is what we are working on now. Here is what I toned her with. Used equal parts of 10-32 and 10-0 with some 0-0, which is just the clear. The clear helps kind of dilute the color so you don't get too cool of a tone, because I want this to be really just like platinum blonde, almost looking like a raw lift, because we are still going to color it again at the class. Now, I did use my K18 leave-in molecular repair mask before I started toning her. That is seriously my go-to product. Every single person gets that on their hair, but that is going to help restructure her newly lightened hair back to virgin strength. It is the best product on the market, and I highly recommend using it, especially if you lighten your hair. There's just nothing else like it on the market, and I will sing K18's praises forever. But as you can see, I'm taking these nice diagonal sections and I'm combing through to make sure we don't have any chunky parts and that everything is getting nice and evenly saturated. And I am just brushing it on, and I have this little comb brush mixture, which really comes in handy for something like this where I need to comb through and put color on. So this one is from Framar, and you can find them pretty much anywhere. But after I get all the base on, then I go through and work through all of her mids and ends. I like to have it a little wet when I do it after a lightening process because that helps with the porosity and soaking up the color evenly. The K18 mask also is a huge help when it comes to that and just porosity in general, helping to heal the hair so that everything comes out really nice and even and we don't have any patchiness. But that is it. I am just applying this toner onto her hair. We're gonna let it process for about 25 minutes. And then I washed that out, shampooed with my K18 Detox shampoo one more time. I did another round of my K18 leave-in mask and then blow dried her, and it is time to put in 1 pack of the Drop Dead extensions. So here is our finished hair. It is so blonde and beautiful, and I'm just cleaning up her ends a little bit now, getting off any split ends, and now we are going to apply these tape-ins. So I am just doing one little row back here of 3 extensions, and then I'm basically going to take a halo around the top of her head. Her hair is pretty fine, so 1 pack I can make work, especially since we were cutting it a little, but normally you will need more than 1 pack on most hair. So now I am just going around in a little halo with my Drop Dead tape-ins and just placing them through. And then we have that one, and that's it. Then, of course, I had to go through and do some blending and cutting on the extensions and trimming of her money pieces and whatnot. But look at how beautiful that looks. So natural, and we hadn't even really blend or cut yet. And she was so excited. Could not believe that was her hair. And then whenever I'm doing a longer cut, I always like to have them stand up because I don't like when the back of the chair is hitting it. I feel like I don't get an even cut, so I'll have them stand. And then you can see we cut a pretty good amount off. And here I am just using my feather razor to blend a little bit of layering into the extensions so that it looks a lot more natural. Can you believe we only did 1 pack? And look at how full and natural that looks. Like you would never think that that's extensions and not all her hair, especially after the little bit of blending, which makes a huge difference. Oof. All right, let me see.
Can we curl it?
Yeah.
Yay!
All right. So yeah, she was very excited about her new hair. And now I am just getting her all curled, and look at how gorgeous it is. We both were just in awe. It was so stunning. It looked so natural with just the 1 pack, and it was just gorgeous. I couldn't wait to paint it for the class the following day. I believe it was like 2 days later. So I lightened her hair, I think 1 or 2 days before the class, and so got that just in time. But she was so excited. She couldn't believe it. And here is our gorgeous after. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with me for another tutorial on another Monday. I will see you next week with the Neapolitan hair, the part 2 for this gorgeous blonde. And before I go, I will give you one more quick look at it because, it is just like so beautiful. There it is. So cannot wait to show you. And that coppery brown was actually semi-permanent color. So you'll find out the formula next week. Bye.